Greetings and salutations, my beloved courtiers. I'm here doing another Tea Day reading. Happy Tea Day to you. This one is for my very first friend in the Twitter writing community, Mrs. Kelly Miller, and this is from her new book, Accusing Mr. Darcy. As I've stated many times, I'm a huge Jane Austen fan, and that's exactly why I'm a huge fan of Kelly Miller and her books. Well, Kelly's become a dear friend of mine as well, so there's nothing she does I will not support. I will always support her. But she has a way of bringing you into the Regency era with such love and sophistication that I really can't picture a greater time or place to live in other than the Regency era as depicted in her books. So for this Tea Day reading, I'm going to read to you from Accusing Mr. Darcy. I've selected a random passage, and I hope you enjoy it. When Darcy entered the drawing room, his eyes spontaneously swept the room in search of the lithe, slim form, sparkling smile, and beguiling eyes of Miss Bennet, despite his knowledge that she had been instructed to remain in her room. The lady possessed a mind of her own and might have balked at the restriction. His posture tensed. The commanding form of Captain Kendall advanced toward him with an unreadable expression. What did the damnable firebrand want now? The captain stopped before him, his bearing a reflection of discomfort. This man's weight shifted from his toes to his heels. Mr. Darcy, I apologize to you for the precipitous accusations I made earlier today. I ought not to have jumped to conclusions without giving you the opportunity to explain. In addition, I warned several of the ladies at the house to avoid you earlier this afternoon. I shall make an announcement at dinner to refute that statement. I am all the more regretful of my mistaken conclusion now that I realize you acted to save Miss Bennet's life. I hope you will forgive me. With considerable effort, Darcy tamped down his resentment. Despite all of his accusations and assumptions, Captain James Kendall was an honorable and decent gentleman. And Nicholas's brother. Let's put this behind us. Captain Kendall held out his hand. Darcy took it without hesitation and shook it. The captain said, Nicholas's men returned an hour ago. They did not find anyone. I hope the investigator Nicholas hired will have better luck. If the culprit lives in the area, someone will know of him. If he's a stranger, people will remember seeing him. Yes, I hope so. A series of announcements created a solemn mood during dinner. Nicholas related the welcome news that Mrs. Kendall had visited Miss Bennet before dinner to find her composed and well. He repeated Darcy's description of the suspect, a tall man dressed as a gentleman with dark curly hair. He added that his men had searched at length for the man without finding any trace of him. Nicholas reminded the ladies not to leave the house without a male escort until further notice. Captain Kendall stood and apologized for the statements he made earlier that day against Darcy. He stated that he had been incorrect in every respect. Then Mr. Kendall informed the group of the expected arrival of Mr. Jeremy Notley, formerly of Bow Street office, who had been retained to investigate Miss Bennet's attack, as well as the death of the maid at Westlake Manor. Rose and Aunt Green stopped by to check on Elizabeth at around 11 that night. Although moments earlier, her weary eyes had lingered upon the same page of her novel without comprehension, her anticipation of learning how the others spent the evening erased all traces of her fatigue. The ladies took seats near Elizabeth, and her cousin shared the details of the announcements made at dinner. Elizabeth took comfort in the news that a former Bow Street runner would soon arrive to investigate her attack and the killing of the maid. Her uncle Gardnier had hired a runner in the past, or as the man had preferred to be called, principal officer, from the Bow Street office to hunt for a former clerk who had stolen from him. After an exhaustive 12-day search in which the hired man sought out the former clerk's family, friends, and associates, the culprit was found, and most of the stolen funds recovered. Her uncle had been impressed with the officer's diligence. So we have a murder mystery on our hands right here in accusing Mr. Darcy. I highly recommend anything Kelly Miller writes, especially if you're a fan of the amazing late, great Jane Austen. I wish you all a happy tea day, and I love you infinitely.